Okay, we're live. Yeah. So, hello everyone. Welcome back to the finale of this trilogy of workshop along with UiPath. I am Sampurn Ratan Jain, your host, the Director of Data Science at Geeks for Geeks. In today's session, we will look at how the world is moving towards agentic AI future and how UiPath platform enables AI agents, robots, people, and even models to work together harmoniously to revolutionize industries and enhance human potential. Remember, AI agents are autonomous software that can perceive environments in real time with objectives and execute complex multi step tasks with minimal human intervention. They are delivering adaptable, scalable workflows. UiPath is delivering adaptable, scalable workflows that drive efficiency, decision making, and innovation. And now, for the final time, Geeks for Geeks is proud to host Isibu Jekan, Adrian Thomas, and Radu Mukana. Isibu is a product builder and engineer at heart with a simple belief that our purpose is to improve people's lives. He builds meaningful products and he thinks that is one way of doing that. He is now working on AI and agents to deliver on that mandate at scale. Adrian Adrian is a principal product manager at UiPath. I think okay. He focuses on building reliable, intelligent agentic systems that empower businesses to accelerate productivity with confidence. Radu is a software engineer at UiPath focused on designing and orchestrating reliable, high impact systems. As one of the main contributors to UiPath's open source libraries for coded agents, he is deeply committed to improving the developer experience, making it easier and more intuitive to build AI powered solutions. Now, on to the main people in this particular session. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you for the introduction. Indeed, this is the third and final workshop on how to build and deploy trustworthy coded agents with UiPath. So in the previous sessions, we went over the fundamentals. We touched on what UiPath stands for, what is the UiPath mandate, and where agents, and in particular code agents or agentic workflows, in particular fit in the bigger picture. And we highly recommend you go over the previous workshops. And at the beginning of each section, you will see an introduction for UiPath and where the code agents fit into the bigger picture. We will skip that for this session because we want to allocate more time on for the demo and for demonstrating the latest and greatest and the trust principles. Now, besides that, we also touched on how one can use coded agent frameworks like Llama Index and LangChain and integrate them natively as first-class citizens within UiPath and deploy them to the UiPath platform to be orchestrated and securely governed. And we even went beyond that. In the second workshop, we took you through the typical iterative emergent, if I may, journey of building and evolving a coded agent to map a real use case scenario. We started with a simple agentic workflow addressing a very simple, maybe risk-free scenario, and we evolved that to a more complex agentic workflow with multiple steps, multiple flows, large functionality coverage, blend of deterministic and undeterministic checks and tools, and we ended up with an escalation mechanism. Now, the UiPath mandate, as we mentioned previously, is to provide the best-in-class platform and tools for agentic automation, which sounds nice, aspirational even. But let me give you the, let's say, the true meaning of it. What is the real embodiment of that statement, of that mandate, and how does the, as we say, rubber meet the road for that. And well, it's clearly not by chasing the hype and not chasing any buzzwords and not chasing the next shiny thing around the corner. Is a totally different approach. It's about being grounded in knowing where the true value is and where the true challenges really are, and to gain um, and to go straight to tackle them. And this workshop is definitely all about that. Is about tackling the biggest challenges. And today we will tackle the challenge of trusting the agent before going to production. Because developing a functionally ready agentic automation that aligns with its intended logic is clearly commendable. It's nice, maybe not even easy to do. Yet it represents only the midpoint, only maybe a fraction of the entire path to production. The remaining journey lies in earning the trust in agentic workflow, because trust is and will remain the currency of production. So in what follows, we will tell the same story. Um, and you might already know a part of that story. And the story is about how one can cut through the noise and go beyond the hype and join the, as we say, the few, the 5%, the 1% of those who deploy dependable agents into production with undisputed value. So trusting these agents, making critical decision over real data. So it's the same story. We will tell the same story, but now we will open a new chapter of the story. Let me share with pinpointing exactly what we will be showcasing today. As topics, we will go with evals for coded agents, the Studio Web and solution integration, and we'll also touch on local dev, traces, and debug experience. Now, as we introduce the topic, still, the reason for UiPath coded evals is that with this great power, which is agentic workflows, comes great responsibility. So we have to have an equal force of the same nature to control and to gain trust in the agents. So we move from simple agents, which would be React agents, one LLM, calling tools in a loop up until it reaches a conclusion, a resolution, and it returns a result, to the new world, which is the one we evolve in, and not only us, but in general, where we'll have multiple steps, multiple flows. So that's an agentic workflow. So as code agents are supercharged with a fine-grained level of control and flexibility that helps us push the boundaries of what an agent can do, the same way evals for code agents are supercharged with a fine-grained control and flexibility to match that force. This is the principle here. The way we will showcase it today will be via real use case, one that we not only imagine. We've seen this, and we've seen this from multiple customers having the same kind of problem and taking the same approach. We will take a snippet of that and show it to you, and we will apply the evals over them to showcase why they are important in a meaningful manner. So without further ado, the key that we want to show is a logistic agentic workflow. And I know that this image might scare some of you, like it's cumbersome, it's complicated, but fear not, we will break this down into simpler steps and it will be easy to comprehend. But let's go through the workflow, and let me show what the workflow would actually look like. And remember, whenever we're talking about an agentic workflow, the final ultimate goal is to have one that is autonomous, meaning that it can take the steps from start to finish without human intervention unless it's highly necessary or it's as a form of escalation. So imagine that we have a sample email like this, It's an unstructured input saying that we want to arrange transportation for some components. These are the shipment details, pretty much standard, but the way we receive them is not standardized. The type of data might be, but not its structure. And this would be a typical email requesting from our company, which is a logistic company, to make them an offer and to confirm. With that, close the email part. Uh, if you start the flow, the next phase would be a validation phase. We want to see if the customer requesting it is actually an existing customer. What is the history of the customer? Do we have it in the database? What is the history of the payments with that customer? Do we want to encourage them to make other orders, or maybe even have blacklisted customer that should not receive a code for some reason? So this is a very important validation phase, which is a part we do validate, but imagine at this step we can add other validations as well. Next one would be to understand the content, to summarize it, to label it in a certain flow. In this case, the type is, for instance, new order. What Radu will showcase is that we can have multiple paths. It can be a new order, it can be a complaint, it can be requesting some details which is not directly related to an order, or even a general category which is not yet handled. With that, the next part would be to calculate the discount. So we do have the list price, but for every customer, we calculate a discount, which is based on seasonality, might be based on history that we have with that customer and other factors. And we will have to feed in these details to the agent such that based on multiple factors, it will calculate a proper discount, and then calculate the base cost that we have and calculate the final offer. The cost will be based on distance, will be based on uh, the travel, is it internal or external, how many days, the weight, and so on. So it's a lot of factors that are considered here in order to calculate the cost. This is an agentic work to combine, to aggregate the data from multiple sources and to have a final offer. This is a human review, which is a form of escalation, meaning that if the confidence of the agent is below a certain threshold, that the offer is a coherent, compelling one, then instead of discarding the entire flow, we can keep all the details that we've gathered up until this point, give them to someone in the company to review, maybe adjust some of it, and then continue with the workflow. For instance, if the confidence here is below 80%, it would say, this is the offer, do you agree? Do another check. And let's say that the human approves the flows, so it reuses all the steps. The agent continues with that approval, composes the response. So PDF with a breakdown of whatever is needed, a code and an email that is nicely formulated. And very importantly, of course, it will send the confirmation to the client, but in order this to be a meaningful agent, it should be integrated into the company's business process, which is at the last step is to start some internal processes to actually make the this offer a concrete one within the company, and schedule the transport, schedule the drivers, and all the necessary steps that are needed in order to actually act on this offer and provide the final service to the customer. Now, going back to how this would look like in code, and I will just go through a flow. We have multiple ones, but for instance, the flow that we've seen is the same here with the marmot diagram, where we have the input, this one, which is the, maybe I can zoom in a bit, is the email, unstructured one. The next one will be to validate the company. As you've seen, we had a validation step. I said that we do have a company in our database and it's a valid one. After that will be understand the request. In that case that I've shown you, it was a new order. So we'll go through this path to calculate the discount based on the history with that customer and other factors, and then we'll go through to handle the order. It can be a restriction, so we can have some exceptions here, but let's say that we are on a typical path where we do calculate the final order and we sample the cost, and we can propose final code to the one that was requesting it. And for some reason, let's say that we have the confidence below the score that we wanted, which should be a rare event, but it's important to have it. The human would approve it, and then we will finalize the input and create the processes that follow uh, the request, which is our internal processes to actually provide the service. So this would be the context. And now, as we will go through, we will see how we can gain trust in this agent. So functionally, this is ready. You have the path that we need. And now the question that you will see again and again and again is how can we trust each step and each flow, and how and what UiPath provides as tools and frameworks to give you the confidence in this agent to go into production and to trust them with real data, which is code, and with real decisions along the way. So with that, I will hand this to Radu, who is the, I would say, engineering driving force behind evaluators. So I'm absolutely glad that we can hear directly from the engineer that are actually building this and are working this day in and day out at UiPath. So with that, Radu, please.
Okay, thanks Eusebio for setting up the scene. So as Eusebio said, the code is ready. The implementation is done. We know it works on the happy paths. We'll also test this now. And some key aspects about this agent, it's fairly complex. It uses a data fabric for data storage, two indexes for performing a RAG, a queue for audit and further processing, an escalation app, and even an MCP server. And all of those components are available through the open source SDKs. Okay, we won't go into details here because we don't want to waste time on this. So let's start and test this agent, make sure it does what it's supposed to do. The first step is to authenticate. We do that using the CLI, the UiPath CLI, and we authenticate against the staging environment for this demo. Okay, we wait for it to fetch the authentication details, and the authentication was successful. As with any UiPath agent, you need to initialize it. This command basically is taking care of everything. It creates configuration files, it creates bindings, we'll touch that later. So basically everything needed for this agent to run both locally in cloud and for evaluations to run both locally and in cloud is handled pretty much by this command. We can see here it created a bunch of files. It created the mermaid diagram, the one that Eusebio showed before. So this is not, the mermaid diagram is not created by the developers themselves. We just analyze the code, and basically this is created out of the box. So you have a visual way of representing this agent where the nodes in here are actually functions into the Python code. Great. So let's continue. The development is done. Let's test this. We have this very nice dev terminal. To use it, you just need to add the UiPath dev dependency. It's already installed on my machine. And the next step is to run the UiPath dev CLI command. What this command is doing, it's opening an interactive terminal application. And we can use this application to run the agent, see real-time logs, see the traces, see all the steps it took. So this is very, very useful in the development process. This is how it looks like. It inferred from the code that as input, it needs an email address, an email content, and optionally a confidence threshold. The default value is 80. We can't play with that. I have here a sample input, and this is the input order. It's the one that Eusebio talked about. So basically, we receive an email from a company, and we should validate this company, the domain, it's correct, and we have a contract with this company. And then this is the email content. They want to arrange transportation from their warehouse in London to their warehouse in Oslo. And we have a bunch of data here. Okay, to run this, we just copy paste this as JSON format. I have it here, and we can copy paste it into the dev terminal as input and click on run. Now, real time in the logs panel, we're going to see the logs of this agent, what it does. We will see that it successfully identified the company using the domain. It's the Nordic Wholesale Group. It fetched the ID from Data Fabric. Using this ID, it's looking for the previous orders, and it decided to apply a 5% discount. And we can also look at the justification. And because they had 4 orders in the last 7 days, they are qualified for a 5% discount. This was handled by the agent using the UiPath Data Fabric. Also, in the traces panel, we can see traces as they come. So those are the steps that the agent took. Even though in the logs, we can print here just what we want, like API calls, this comes out of the box, or certain audit stuff. In the traces panel, we can see the entire agent flow, every step it took. We can see that it first went through the understand request node. It understood that this is a new order. Then it went to the calculate discount node. Then it went to the handle new order. And in here, we can see every tool that the agent invoked. It validated the shipment capacity. It used the shipment retriever tool. In here is the company data, the actual stuff it uses to make sure it adheres to the company policies. And at the very end, it finished. And in the details panel, voila, we can see the output. No error, and we have this email, the discount was applied. This is the estimated price based on the agent findings. Okay, so we covered the handle order scenario. There's one more I want to handle until we move on to evals. We also have a brand new CLI command, which is the debug command. Let's have a quick look at it. I maybe will zoom in a bit. Okay, so this CLI command, you just say UiPath debug, and then this is the name of the agent. You can provide an input file and an output file if you don't want to write it in the terminal. Let's run this command, and as you can see, now the input is a complaint one. We are not on the same workflow anymore, and the agent should take different approaches. Let's have a look at the input complaint. So this is the input complaint. So they are very, very unhappy with our services because the delivery was late, because they had a huge loss because of this. And let's see what our agent is doing. Now, remember, we ran the debug command, not the run one we showed before. And this means that we can place dynamic breakpoints on this agent locally. Let's have a look at the diagram once again and see where we would like to place a breakpoint. So we go to the auto-generated agent mermaid. Let's view it as a beautiful chart. Let me close some of the windows. Okay, and remember, this is a complaint email, right? So it should route the request to this branch, and at some point we'll have the collect output node. Okay, to place a breakpoint, it's very easy. We just have to write B from breakpoint and then write the node name. So in this case, it would be collect output. Breakpoint was set, and now we can write the agent. Let's run it. And here we'll see step by step what is the current agent state. So at each node, we see, okay, this is the validate company node. We see what the agent did. It validated the company. It extracted the company name and the company ID. Okay, here it invoked an AI model. We can see the prompts it gave it. We can see the tools. We can see everything. Understand request. It classified this as complaint. So everything is working as expected, but there's one thing I want you to pay attention to. Oh, and also we hit the breakpoint. Now the execution stopped and we can resume it. But there's one thing. As input, we gave this time a 99 confidence threshold. This confidence threshold, as Eusebio said before, basically notifies the agent that if its confidence is below this number, it should escalate this to a human. It should not take any action, let a human review this, and this is what makes agents reliable. So the agent gave it a pretty good confidence score, which is still below 99. And let's see what's happening. Let's continue because we hit the breakpoint. And now if you look at the logs, we see the job got suspended and a polling mechanism started. Why is that? Well, as I said, the confidence was not good enough, and the agent actually created a human in the loop task for someone to approve it. And the main takeaway here is that you can do this fully from your local environment. Now we navigate to the UiPath Action Center. If we refresh this, we should see a pending task here. It was created 25 seconds ago, and it's already assigned to me because I instructed the agent to do that. And we can either approve or reject it. Here, the agent pasted information that is important for me. So they said, okay, this is a complaint, this is the original email, and here is the proposed email response. And I can have a look at it, and I can either approve it or decline it. If everything looks good, I approve it, and the workflow goes ahead. But let's imagine something is not right. So we analyze this, we look over our business case, and we figure out, well, the refund is not big enough. This is a valuable customer, we want to refund them more. So we can give feedback, real-time feedback to the agent. I'll say, no, please refund this amount, not this one. And I'm gonna reject. Now, if we go back to the development ID without doing anything, you will see that the execution resumes because the task was completed. Now the agent can resume. So this way you can really test a real case scenario without leaving your ID or leaving it just to approve or deny human escalations. Now we can see here in the state that it got our input, we didn't approve it, and we wanted to take another route, and we hit a breakpoint again because now the agent reanalyzes what it should do based on our input, and it created an action again. This means I can go back to Action Center. I should have another pending task was created 10 seconds ago, and let's see if the agent did what was expected from him. Let's see if it understood that we wanted to change something. And if we have a look here, okay, now it decided to refund the number that I gave it. This is the power that human in the loop provides. Okay, so everything works as expected. I can approve this, everything is fine now. And if we look back, okay, the execution finishes. So let's recap. Where are we? We developed this pretty complex agent. Everything is working fine. But Eusebio, can we deploy to production just yet? What do you think?
I would say absolutely no. Wait, so is the confidence of not deploying to production now would be 100%. So let's change that from 100% no to production to 100% go to production. But before that,
Yeah.
since you mentioned the dev experience, maybe it's worth considering here something. Let's imagine that things didn't work as you expected. You went through the human in the loop. You said change from this amount of refund to another one, and at the second run, let's say imagine that it didn't change the sum. How could you use the dev experience to investigate where the problem is?
Well, in the dev experience, I have basically all the traces or all the logs. I can see step by step why the LLM decided to do that or not do what was expected from him. As I showed you, we also have the prompts that are passed into the LLMs. This complex workflow is using 3 agents. That means 3 LLMs with tools, and I can see what's happening and then correct that. But again, this is happening only on the happy path. Those are the scenarios I tested. We are not covering all the scenarios just running the agent locally. This is where evals come into play.
Correct. And you say that at least for this, let's say they would have this bug on a path that we know what is the expected behavior, and we can have a complementary debug experience and dev experience where you can see full traces, identify at which step it took the wrong turn, and maybe change it. So we should be in a state before moving to evolve. We should be a state where we are satisfied with the functionality. And once we are satisfied with the functionality, once everything looks good, once that email looks like, okay, it's perfect, job done, it's weekend, now we are halfway there. And let's see what are the next steps.
Yeah, exactly. So to run the UiPath evaluations for coded agents, you can do them both locally and in Studio Web. For the sake of this demo, we'll show you both approaches. So at first, let's create a new project in Studio Web. What is Studio Web? Studio Web is our cloud native web IDE. I have, where is it? I have here a solution that I created before, logistics agent gigs for gigs. In it, I have an IPA workflow. I can have anything, but I want to create a new project. For this, I click on the plus button. I select agent. Let's say it's logistics gigs for gigs. Let's create it. And now I have to choose what kind of agent this will be. Let's wait for a second for it to load. Okay, so I have these three options, and I want to publish a coded agent. Let's choose the coded agent, and it's very, very simple to publish an agent to Studio Web. You just need to copy this environment variable and then run the UiPath push command. That's it. Let's do that. What this command is doing, it's, first of all, let's add this to the .m file and then run UiPath push. This command is not only pushing the source code to Studio Web, but also the evals. So if you prefer a more the first approach, you don't want to leave your favorite ID, that's perfectly fine. You can work with evals, develop them locally, run them locally. But also, if you are in a collaborative environment or you want to use the more beautiful Studio Web canvas, you can also do that. So as you can see, it's uploading the files that this agent is required to run, and also it's uploading some evaluation files that we created before, and I'll show you those. And it's doing some more stuff. It's importing some resources. We'll also touch that a bit later. Okay, let's go back to Studio Web and see what it looks like. And this is it. We push the code. Here on the main page, we see the entire mermaid. We also see some metadata like the publisher name, when it was last pushed, and what's the current project version. Now, in here, inside the source code, I have all the files needed for this agent to run. So once a project is pushed into Studio Web, it gets fully run on cloud. We don't need, if we don't want, we don't need to touch the local ID. Okay, and in here, you'll also notice that I have this breakpoints list. So I can place breakpoints and debug this fully in UiPath Cloud. Let's place a breakpoint. Let's say I want to have a breakpoint for the understand request node. We can see on the mermaid diagram that it's set it a breakpoint there, and then we can debug this agent clicking here. Now, the canvas identified that this is the input of our agent, and here we provide the input as we do locally. But there's another very cool thing I'll show you. First, let me just copy paste. Let's test with the same order, which is the most complex workflow. So this is the sender. This is the email content. We leave the confidence threshold as let's say 80, and we have this environment variables field. Basically, we're not pushing from your local environment any secrets, any environment variables for obvious reasons, but the agent might need the environment variables for it to work. And in this case, our agent is built in such a way that if you provide it with an environment variable that's specifying an MCP server URL, it will consume also an MCP server and use these tools. And let's do that. I'll click on Save and Debug, and now the execution is starting in cloud. To see the actual job that's executing, we can go to the orchestrator, and in our personal workspace, we'll see that a serverless job started. That's the job that's running our agent, and it's reporting to Studio Web. So in my workspace, if I go to automations, jobs, I should see here a debugging job in progress. This one started 13 seconds ago. Let's check it. this is the input I gave it. Here is the same experience that we have in the dev terminal. We can see the logs, we can see traces, and we see that, okay, we hit a breakpoint. Let's head back to Studio Web. The execution is paused here because we hit a breakpoint. We can also see traces here. So we hit a breakpoint after the validate company node. Okay, let's continue with the execution, and the execution resumes. It should go till the end because I don't have any more breakpoints and the confidence threshold is low enough. But what I wanted to show you here is that, remember, we set the MCP server URL environment variable. That MCP server, it's placed inside the shared folder, and it's an MCP server fully available and run inside UiPath. It's a Google Maps MCP. We can see it is running because the agent requested it. And it's very easy to set it up. It takes like 5 seconds tops, I'd say. Let's see how this was configured. We just said, okay, we want you to run this command with this server that's already available from Google. And then we had to provide optionally for this server a Google Maps API key that we wrote as a secret asset. And that's it. Once you click create, once you create the MCP server, it is available and pluggable into any coded agent using the MCP protocol. And of course, you can see traces for the MCP server as well. If we click on this MCP server and we look at the traces panel, you can see that our agent first listed the tools to see what tools it can use from this Google Maps MCP server. And then it decided to use the maps distance metrics because it wanted to find out how long would it take to drive from London to Oslo to deliver the package. If we have a look at the input, we see that, okay, it called this tool with source as London, with destination as Oslo, and then the tool said, okay, it takes approximately 21 hours. And this will be understood by the agent, and the execution finished. It was successful. We can see the output here. Everything works as expected. Okay, so we debug the agent even in Studio Web. Let's get now to the fun part. Let me refresh this project briefly, and let's get to the evals. So before promoting it to production, as Eusebio said, we need to make sure the agent is reliable. We need to gain confidence. We can't promote it just yet because it works with some sample data. We need to make sure that no matter what the case is, our agent will work as expected. Okay, so on the left panel, you'll see here evaluation set and evaluators. If we go to the evaluators, we see we already have some evaluators. These are the ones I created locally and pushed to Studio Web. But let's see what evaluators we have available in UiPath. So basically, you have 11 evaluators available, and basically those are should work with any coded agent that you have out of the box. We have from output validators to LLM-based evaluators to tool call validators. Let's take, for example, a LLM-based one. To create a validator is very, very easy. You just select the desired one. You have some configuration to do, like what model should this LLM use. This LLM is looking at the evaluator trajectory. And then right here, okay, so this agent should do those stuff. And this evaluator will evaluate if that was the case or not.
Since you mentioned the Google Maps MCP, which is, by the way, a crazy thing if you think. The alternative to that is to have a bespoke system that would implement those APIs and would get the data, or even worse, a human actually going to the web and inputting the start and the destination and retrieving the final distance. So given that part of our agent is that we have an external tool call that we did not program, we don't have access to the implementation of it. We just entered that very brief command to bring those packages, MCP packages within UiPath and host them within UiPath. So then out of these 11 evaluators, can we evaluate that even if we have external tool calls? And what would be, generally speaking, a good evaluator for that case?
Yeah, so we do have exactly this. We have tool call validation. So those evaluators here are evaluating all the tool the agent is calling. And not only that, it evaluates that they are providing the right arguments to the tools, because a tool may be incredible, but if your agent is hallucinating it and then is not calling it the right way, it doesn't matter. It's evaluating how many times it calls any tool. It's evaluating in which order it's calling the tools. We also have this evaluator for this example, and it's evaluating even the output of the tools.
Okay, so we can gain trust in an agent even if it uses tools that are not within UiPath and are external, and you have a bunch of ways to tackle them and to see if the proper tool was called with the proper arguments and if the output was as expected.
Yeah, exactly. That's very well said. Okay. And now let's go, we had a look at the evaluators. Let's go to the evaluation set. I created this before, so we have 3 evaluations in this evaluation set. Let's take a look at the first one. We can run them in cloud or locally. We can run it one at a time, all doesn't matter. Let's have a look at the first one. So this is an evaluation here. It has a name and an input. We say, okay, for this input, which is the one we tested so far, we are applying those evaluators here. You see that we don't need to apply all evaluators, we just need to configure those that make sense. And we have 2 evaluators for this data point. We have an LLM judge output. This LLM powered evaluator will look at the expected output, which is this one, and we'll look at the actual output and provide a score, how much, how close those two strings are. And also we have a deterministic trajectory evaluator, which is actually a tool order. So as we said before, actually this is a very key point. It's not enough for an evaluator to evaluate the output. You can build an amazing agent. You can build an output evaluator, and that output may actually be correct, but if it came like that for the wrong reasons, it's not good enough. We need to make sure the output is okay, but also the agent took the right steps to achieve that output. And let's see here, we have those 3 tool calls. We say, okay, first of all, I want the agent to call the understand request tool to understand the request and how to route it. Then this is very important. I want the shipment retriever tool, which is an ECS index. It's the company data that we have for delivery. I want this tool to be called before the validate shipment capacity tool. Why? Because the agent may look at the email content and say, okay, actually, I'll explain this while I run this evaluation. So why this is very important? Okay, evaluation is running. We can see here in the runs tab that it's in progress. And to monitor the evaluation job, we can see here in orchestrator in personal workspace, a job that started, not this one, sorry. Let me refresh this one, studio app debugging. And here we can see the command it ran. So it's the eval command. What does that mean? That we can also run this command locally. But let me get back to the tool call order. So we need to make sure for this agent that it first calls the tool that fetches company data, and after only then validates the shipment category. Because the agent may look at the email and say, okay, they want to transport 3,000 kilograms. This is for sure a high capacity. But what if that's not? It shouldn't be for the agent to decide. It should be our own company policy data. So this is why we needed to call that tool before, after it fetches the data from our company. So the run finished. Let's refresh it. And something is not good. As you can see, we get an 85 score for the output evaluator, which is a pretty good score, but we get a 0 score for the evaluator tool order. So we are looking here at a false positive. The output is correct, but not for the correct reasons. Let's have a look at it. Why was this 0% score? Well, it was because we expected to call understand request, shipment retriever, and then validate. But no, it understood the request and then called the validate shipment first. So the agent, the LLM actually hallucinated and categorized this capacity as it wanted. It was not grounded into the context we gave it, right? And that's not good. And this way we can catch bugs like that that can have major implications in production.
Yeah, and I think
So
this is a beautiful showcase on why when we mention, and we do have some sobering news and sobering posts around the internet, like only 10% of the project provide on the value, only 5% of them are trusted in production. And this is a beautiful example on why that happens. Because everything looks good. From even from a human perspective, the final output is beautiful. The response would be 10 out of 10, but it misses entirely, and hence it cannot be trusted. And without proper evals, as Radu said, you cannot catch this. So one important aspect here is that these are, we do see them because we design in such a way to emphasize them. But in a normal, typical workflow, you would not have the full view of this, and you would not be able to catch it at design debug time. This is beyond that, and hence the importance and the difference that these evals make in delivering on the overall agentic promise.
yeah. Okay, so we identified the problem, right? It's not taking the steps it should take. Let's head back to the dev terminal. And here we can see the problem. It has this tool that's defined like this in code. And it said, okay, if validation fails, then you should stop processing immediately. The problem with this is that the agent hallucinates and, okay, it believes that this tool should be called at first, but it shouldn't. So we can actually play a little prompt engineering here, and I'll use this little script to replace this prompt here with this one in our prompt.py file. Let's do that. Okay, so we updated the new prompt. Now we clearly state that validate shipment capacity should be called only after we get output from the shipment retrieval tool, as I discussed before. And also let's do something different this time. Let's not push the code again and run the evals in cloud. Let's run them locally and see what's happening. So to run evaluations, it's that easy. You just can have this command UiPath eval, the name of the agent, and then output file. That's optional if you want to see the output of all evaluators. Now, this command here will run all the evaluators, and we'll see there it's running. The agent is running, everything is starting, but we can't really get feedback from that. What's happening? Well, actually, we can do that because this run, even though it's local, it's reporting real time to Studio Web. If we go to the runs tab, we can see run is in progress. Is this one? This right here is actually the local run. So even though I'm developing locally for better visibility, for better tracing, I also have this Studio Web interface that I can use because those evaluations are, as I said, real-time reporting what they did to Studio Web. So we can see now what happened. The agent, the first eval was completed, and let's see the score this time. The LLM judge got a 0.8 as the first time, but the tool color got a perfect score. This is because we changed the prompt and now everything works as expected. The dev terminal here, I can also see the logs for this specific run. And if I go to Studio Web again, let's click refresh. This was the eval run, new order successful. Let's see. Evaluator tool call order got a perfect score this time because we changed the prompt and now it's the correct one. Cool. So this is a very, very nice example of how we can combine output evaluators with trajectory evaluators to reach that confidence threshold that you need to promote this agent to production. But that's not all. We also have two more use cases that are very nice. Okay. So Eusebio, let me ask you something here. So this agent, when I describe to you what this agent does, and based on the evaluators that we have available here, how would you evaluate the discount part, the discount logic? Because that's a custom calculation based on the business case of my company. Me as a company, I decide if I want to apply a 10% discount, a 7%, or more. What evaluator I can use from here to make sure the discount is correctly calculated by the agent?
Oh, it's custom logic, right? So there will not no out of the box evaluator would be able to provide that. No matter how large is the menu of evaluators that you have, there will be no one that it will be specific for my use case. So I would guess none of them.
Yeah, that's correct. But that's also okay because we do have custom evaluators. So basically, we give you out of the box 11 evaluators. But if you want to implement some custom logic, you can totally do that. Those are fully customizable. Let's see how you can do that. So to add a new evaluator, for discount in this case, you have two CLI commands. You have the UiPath add evaluator command, and you give it a name. This will create a template for the evaluator. Then you go ahead and implement the code. And after that, you have the register evaluator. This is analyzing the evaluator you created, extracting the types from there. So we make sure this evaluator will work with UiPath coded agents both locally and in cloud. And let's see how this evaluator looks like that I implemented before. We can find it here under evaluations, evaluators, custom, and we have discount.py. Okay, this is how the evaluator looks like. It's highly customizable. You have a lot of stuff to configure here, but the most important part is that you need to implement this method. That's it. You just need to implement this method, and based on the input you get, you get to decide what the output should be. And we basically give you here everything. We give you the agent input, the agent output, the trace, so you can do whatever evaluation you want using the agent trajectory, the agent behavior, and simulation instructions if applicable. So let's quickly have a look at this agent, what it does. It checks in all the traces for the one span we care about, which is the calculate discount one. And then we get the discount percentage that the agent gave to this order. And then we get how many orders we had in the last 7 days from the previous node. And then we have this logic here, which is very simple. As I showed you in the prompt, if you have more than 7 orders, it's 15. If not 10, 5 or none. And that's pretty much it. This is a custom evaluator. And this evaluator works for my specific use case.
So
now,
would you
if
say
you go,
this is a deterministic one, or a deterministic evaluator for the discount, or is it a blend of deterministic and undeterministic?
well, mine is a deterministic one because I can really play with this. I can let an agent hallucinate, or even an LLM that's evaluating another LLM hallucinate and say, okay, it's fine for you to give a 99% discount. That shouldn't be the case. So in my personal case, for a logistics company, this will be a deterministic evaluator. But that's actually a good point because here it's code, I can write anything. I can have a mix of deterministic, LLMs, anything I want to do to evaluate this agent and decide what score should I give it.
Yeah, because as we discuss with customers and partners, and as they develop a use case, one frequent question that surfaces is how can an LLM just judge an LLM? Wouldn't that just continue with the issue? Then the judge would not judge correctly. And this is again a beautiful example on how we can, with UiPath evals, blend undeterministic evaluators with, in this case, a custom deterministic one for something that is heavily high risk, right? That the discount can end up in something that it heavily influences the outcome, the business outcome of this agent in the whole picture.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Well, in some scenarios, it may be beneficial to have this scenario, an LLM judging another LLM, because the temperature is different, the model, the prompts, the tools they may use, that's fine. But yeah, in those critical cases, we should rely on custom evaluators or deterministic ones, even if we can reuse something. So while you are explaining Eusebio, I ran this eval set. We can see the discount evaluator here. This is a custom one, doesn't exist anywhere else but in our project because we created it, and we get a perfect score. And here is the output of the agent. It ran. We can also have a look in Studio Web at the runs. Let's see. We have this one, and it got a perfect score. Why is that? Well, I also get the justification here because I wrote it in the evaluators. In the last 7 days, we got 4 orders for this company, and we expected a 5% discount, and the actual discount is 5%. So this is a perfect score. Using this evaluator, we can be sure that the agent is compliant to the company policy that we have.
Okay, so then one challenge before we move to the next one is, I think it would be fair to say that discount is not a set it once in stone and never look back at a thing, right? So if someone wants to change it and the business owner would like to have direct influence and confidence that, so one, he can change the discount based on several factors without changing the agent, right? And secondly, to have the confidence that once it changes, then the agent would pick up the new information and will integrate it within its logic. How would you go about this?
Well, that's another feature that I planned for the end of this presentation, but we can touch it a bit now. You can achieve that using bindings. So binding, it's another concept from UiPath that lets you choose drop-in replacements for your agent without modifying the code. So in my code, I can have hard-coded, okay, at this step, and this is actually what's happening in this agent. I have hard-coded in code. Let's have a look, actually, because this is a good question. Let's have a look where the main agent code actually resides, and let's see here. Okay, and I have some retrievers that I'm using to perform a RAG, some context-grounded retrievers, and let's see, not retrieve premium order, this one. This is hard-coded, right? Because this is code. I say, okay, I want you to look in orchestrator for the index called shipment index dev, in the shipment index folder, in the shared folder, and this is hard-coded. Once the code is running and is running good and the evaluations are giving it a high score, I don't want to touch the code again, right? Because it's already done. I got trust. But then I don't want to use the shipment index dev. I want to use the shipment index production when I promote this agent to production. Well, bindings, UiPath bindings let you do that. You can, at runtime, you can choose what resources will be consumed by this agent, even if they are hard-coded in the code. This is a
Okay,
very powerful feature, and I'll show this at the end of the presentation.
cool. So similarly, we could reference the discount policy for Q2 or for Q3 dynamically without making a single change in the code.
Yes, because an agent or an agentic workflow in this case, it's good enough if it has the edges correctly, if the logic is good, if the prompts are good, if the tools, the internal tools are good. Everything else should be evaluated in another way. Because if our agent works as we expect, it should work good with index A, index B, index C, with many types of discounts. It can be fully customizable.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so I have just one more evaluation I want to show you, which is let's say, the last very nice feature that we introduced with this evaluation release. So if you remember at the beginning of the presentation, I showed you when we ran UiPath debug, I showed you that we said, okay, you have a confidence threshold of 99. Everything below 99, you should escalate. Let a human be sure you took the right decision. But how is that working? The human in the loop. How is human in the loop working with evals? Because you may have an eval set that has 100 evaluation points. You can't put someone, each time you evaluate the agent, go and respond to the action created in Action Center and said resume, reject. You can't interrupt the agent when evaluating it. And here comes the third and final point from this presentation, which is mocking.
Yeah, and
With
we have to
UiPath
recognize the limitation here, right? One thing that we cannot do and we will not be able to do is to evaluate a human. That's out of scope.
Well, I mean, yeah, I guess. I wouldn't completely agree with this statement, but let's suppose that's the case. Okay, so here we can mock the function that's because this is a scenario we want to test. We want to test that if the agent is not confident enough, it escalates the task to a human, and the human does something and the agent continues. This is a valid scenario we need to test before promoting to production, but we don't want to have to deal with the human in the loop part. And this is extremely easy to do with UiPath. You just have this import from UiPath eval mocks import mockable. This is a decorator, and then we use this decorator to apply to any function we need to be mocked within the evals. So we said for the create approval task that's actually interrupting the graph and waits for a human response, we want this to be mockable. So if I want in a data point, I can say this should be mocked. For this input and this output, this is for this input, this is the output you have to provide. And how is that configured? Very easy. We have here the evaluation set. And the last evaluation point I have to show you, I think it's this one. New order successful. It's yes, complaint with human approval. This is the first input I showed you when we ran the agent. The confidence threshold is very high, it's 99, so the agent almost every time will escalate this. But we define a mocking strategy for this eval point. And we say, okay, for the function create approval task that we decorated as mockable, so we know it can be mocked, given any two arguments that will be passed to this function, I want you to return that is approved, and this is the output from the human. Response looks professional and addresses the customer concerns appropriately. That's all I need to do. And let's see if it works. Let's go to the default evaluation set, search for this eval point. I think it was complaint with human approval. Let's see, complaint with human review, this one. Before running it, I want to show you another combination of trajectory and output based. I have here an exact match evaluator that comes out of the box here. I just say that, okay, I want you to look at the error part of the agent and you can consider this successfully if it has no error. And I have a complaint trajectory evaluator, and I write it here and I tell you what it should do. The agent should classify the email as a complaint in natural language, and this will look at the agent trace, not the agent output. Okay, let's save and let's run this. Now remember, for this eval point, the confidence threshold is 99. So if we are not mocking that function, it will not work, right? The agent will escalate the problem to a human. Someone is going to need to reject or approve, but we don't want that. So in here, in orchestrator, as always, we can see what this job is doing. Let's see if it started. It did. We can look at this is very nice. When evaluating the agent, you don't care only about the evaluators, but you also care about the agent trajectory, so you know what you are evaluating. And using these discoverability tools, you can see here in orchestrator very easy what this agent is doing. Okay, so let's have a look at the traces in here. Human review node. This is the node that should escalate the problem. Let's see details about it. So let's look at the output of this one, and the output is what we mocked inside the evaluation. So this was not actually called, but when the evaluators are evaluating this, they are going to get this trace. They are going to get, okay, so the agent was approved but the agent task was approved by a human. And if we go back to UiPath Studio, let's see here the responsives of those runs. And we see that we get a perfect score for both evaluators that we applied. The LLM judge trajectory gave it 100% because the agent processed the email as complaint as we asked it. To do that, it looked over the traces, and the exact match gave it 100% because we have no error. So that's pretty much it with evaluators. Of course, now you can do, I mean, as we showed you, almost sky's the limit here. If you don't have the perfect built-in evaluator to use, you can have a custom evaluator. If you don't want to call in the evaluator external services that may not be idempotent and they may change data, you don't need to do that. You mock everything you don't want to be called, like you do in a regular unit test. Okay, so we gain trust. Can we promote it now to production? Eusebio, what do you say?
Yeah, now I think we are pretty much there.
Okay, so we showed you in the last two workshops that you can push the agent from within the terminal, you can run UiPath pack, UiPath publish, but once an agent reaches Studio Web, you can do with it everything else you can do within Studio Web for other project types. So we can actually click on publish here. And this is very nice. This is where this Studio Web integration really plays a key role, because when we publish this solution, this becomes a self-contained solution that we can take and publish it to another organization, to another tenant, and it should work out of the box, because we do have here the resources used by the agent, the resource that we can override, as I said, and I'll show this in a moment after we publish this. And also we have here an RPA process. We can have 5 more agents, 10 more agents, doesn't matter. Once they reach Studio Web, they will all be contained into the same solution, and that should work out of the box in any environment, not only where you tested it when you have those resources. Okay, but you can find more about this in our Studio documentation. Let's see what the publish job is doing. I should be notified once those agents, that actually the agent and RPA job are properly packaged and deployed. Let's see. Hopefully it did not fail. Let's check actually in the solutions tab. So in here, in my personal workspace, I have these solutions, and in here I should see the published solutions from within UiPath. Okay, and we see that this is the one, logistics for GIST, but it is in a draft state, because most likely I need to, oh no, never mind, it was successful. I just needed to give some time. Okay, so it was successful. The solution was deployed. We can see it here. This is the current version of the solution, and we can navigate to the solution folder. Okay, so this is the solution folder. We have here a couple of processes. This is the RPA workflow. This is the approval app, because as I said, now it works as a fully contained solution. We have this app inside the solution once we import it. And we have the agent here. And let's edit this agent and see a bit. Here in the package requirements, those are the bindings I just told I was yapping about before. So in here, you can see the resources used by the agent and what's actually used at runtime. So we see we have an index here, which is the company policy index. If we want, we can overwrite it. But for this one, let's keep it the company policy. We have an app here, and we can choose another app that we wanted to use. Let's choose this one. And for index, and this is a key part, we have here the shipment index dev, but we just promoted this agent to production. We want to test it. We want it to run with a real-time index that contains real-time data. So instead of the shipment index dev, let's choose the shipment index production. Let's update the agent. And let's run it. And with that, we can conclude. Since we promote the agent to production, we need to be highly confident that it took the right decision. So let's say 99 confidence threshold. And as always, let's use the input we tested before. So remember, the code is the same. I didn't modify anything in the code. The agent is the same. The input is the same, but there was a runtime configuration that I did before. Instead of test, let this be, because now we are in a real world scenario. This is John Doe. And the email content is the same. Okay, and let's start this agent. Now, why was very important that I chose the production index, not the development index? So remember, the email is the same, right? The shipment should go to London, to Oslo, just as before. But if we go here in the shared to the storage buckets, where we have the actual data ingested by the indexes, and we have a look at shipment data production, this will contain a key difference. Let's download this file and have a look at it. Let me put it on the right screen. One sec. It's this one. Where is it? Okay. In the production index from London to Oslo, we actually have a temporary restriction, right? We cannot perform shipments from this location due to current international restrictions. And this is key. So actually, even if you don't modify the code, the agent can operate with any source of data. And let's see what it did. So before, when running with the same input and the same code, it said, okay, it's fine. I applied the 50% discount. This is the sum. Go ahead. And we can see here the agent is suspended because I gave it a 99 confidence threshold. We have the resume conditions tab, and we see that, okay, the resume condition for this agent is actually an action it created. We can have a look at the traces. And let's see how this section looks like in Action Center for the grand finale. Okay, so this is the task it created. And because I used a different index, and that index contains restrictions, with the same code that I gain confidence in, with the same agent, I'm gonna get different outputs. And in here, we can see that the proposed email response is that I regret to inform you there is currently a restriction on the requested delivery route. So this is where bindings do all the magic. Once an agent is done, once you finish developing it, that's all. No need to touch the code. You evaluate it, you promote it to production, and you pick what resources that agent uses. Let's approve this. The job should pick up from where it left off. The state switched to resume, and we should see in a second the final output in here of this job. So yeah, I think this is pretty much it. We can recap at the end what we did. So we developed an agent. We made sure it works on our test scenarios. Then we evaluated not only the output, but also the trajectory and the custom logic that we did. In order to achieve that, we mocked some of the functions that we needed. And the last step, we package the project, we publish it, and we feed it the production resources, not the development resources anymore. And in here, the output of the agent is that I regret to inform you there is currently a restriction on that route.
Yeah, thank you, brother. I think this is a beautiful showcase on where we stand as UiPath and what is our mandate. And if you remember at the beginning, we stated that we are not chasing the buzzwords, we're not chasing the hype. We are very keen on understanding where the true challenges are, where the true value is, and tackle those problems. So what we've shown here is that we understand that there is no silver bullet in this agentic space. There is a lot of promises, but there is no one prompt or one LM model that would do everything. But rather, we've shown that from build to deploy, we do need the proper tools and the proper platform in order to actually deliver on this promise. And you've seen that as Radu did a recap. So in the build, we had the UiPath Python SDK to have the assets, bucket, human in the loop to create tasks, data fabric, and all that to bring that into the dev experience. We've provided dev and debug tool that we've showcased to reach that functional ready state for the agent. And after that, all the tools for the eval, like we can eval steps, trajectory, tool calls, end-to-end flow, and we can have very powerful tools like having a mocking and the custom evaluators along the way. And we even provide the dual eval experience. You can develop the evals in code in your IDE and then synchronize it with Studio, or even use the UI UX canvas to build those same evals and have the same capabilities in terms of eval. So we have a full eval experience, but that's not the end of it. You need to provide a good deploy experience where you can have it packed in the solution, ability to securely orchestrate and govern, and for instance, have a possibility to have different bindings such that You can control the behavior of the agent and the proper context that you give to the agent. And one final part that we did not touch on is what happens after deployment, because the story continues even after that. While you can monitor it, you can provide feedback to that agent, incorporate that feedback, and watch if not only you've gained trust, but the next one is to see that it works as expected, and you can maintain trust. And maybe that is a story for another time, but most of the story we've told already. And I hope it's created some a good feeling on what is the power and the need for this kind of tool. So thanks. And with that, I think we can open for Q&A if we still have some time for that.
So the questions I gleaned from the session today was, the first one was obviously, where can we get the code for this? The if that's possible, is that something that we can provide?
As of now, no, this is not a public repo, but typically what we do, we refine the code and we then publish them as samples in our repo.
Yeah, so for sure, very soon you are going to see this as a sample in our UiPath LangChain repo, as this was a LangChain agent. But as I said before in the Forest workshop, a very good starting point for anyone that wants to use and develop such agent is our sample. So in our documentation, you can find the link to our examples, and there then we have a lot of samples, very easy samples, not this complex, and each of them shows you how you can use a RAG, how you can use an MCP, how you can use an index. And you combine all of those and you can end up with an agent such as this. But will be this also will be available once we refine it a bit.
Okay. So is it okay if I ask some questions?
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah. So you talked about the business logic, basically the operational flow in the beginning, right? Uh, I kind of understand this, but can you explain to the learners, to the beginners, why that is necessary from a technical perspective as well?
Why is the business case needed from a technical perspective? Is that the question?
Yeah. So why do technical people need to understand the business use case at the end of the day?
Okay, yeah. Well, as you see, as you've seen in this agent, the diagram of it was pretty large, and this agent was specifically developed for the Gigs for Gigs demo. We may reuse it in the future, but in a real world scenario, it may have like 10 times that amount of nodes. So a developer, good engineer should understand the business requirements, and based on that, you can develop your agent. This is the main advantage of workflows. We call this an agent, but it's actually an agentic workflow that utilizes three sub-agents, if you may. So formally, you would have just one React agent. You have an LLM, we give it some context, and we pass it, we throw at it some tools, and they would get the human request and they will do stuff. But now with workflows, what coded agents offer is that deterministic approach that blends it perfectly with LLMs. When you can have a deterministic choice, like for discount, if you have more than three orders in the same day, it's 5% discount, you should take that deterministic choice because you are sure that the agent will take the right decisions. When you can do that, when you are working with structured data, when they should take actions, when they should call tools and stuff like that, for sure, use an LLM. So this is the golden path here. You understand the business case where you can do something deterministic, you do it. But when you can do it, you let the LLM do their magic, but constraining them with those indexes, with this context grounding, with those tools that you first validate. So that's very important.
So yeah, that's really a keen insight, Radu. So another question that I saw in the comments is, uh, are these agents, they going to be ultimately placed in like humanoid robots or something like that? Is that the future that we are looking at?
Yeah, in a sense, I think what matters are the principles behind this. Some of them would be applied to a wide range of use cases.
Right.
And whatever we presented, we think that they hold true as principles, as approaches, right, as need, and the implementation for a host of use cases. And the only nuance that we will see for other use cases is in the customization part. And here is where the coded agentic workflows come into play, where we can integrate with bespoke systems and have, as Radu mentioned before, have the possibility to insert deterministic code, which would be custom and predictable, alongside with undeterministic ones. So, yeah, the same principle hold true, and coded agentic workflows do provide the kind of means, the control and flexibility that you would need to enable those scenarios, both from a developing build perspective and evaluation perspective.
Okay. So, how, okay, so another question that I saw was that for such an agentic workflow, how much evaluation should be done? Like, I know the answer. There's no there's no such thing as too much evaluation, right? At the end of the day, right? But what should be an appropriate amount of time? Let's say we built the agent in 3 months, then how much more efforts and time should we put in evaluation?
Perfect. That's a very good point, and that's another challenge that we someone touched upon, obviously with evals, but we did not discuss about evals coverage. What means to have a proper, and did you evaluate it fully, the workflow? Meaning that the potential flows are evaluated such that whenever it goes to a certain path, you had the proper evaluated, the relevant evaluators along that path. And for that, indeed, that's an issue, a challenge on top of what we've discussed today on how you can generate or build manually those evals. The general way of thinking about this is to think in flows, and for that flows to think of possible paths, and for those possible paths to add the evaluators, add the steps or tools such that the main decision points are covered. That is the typical approach. What we see in the future is that it and something that we are working on is to have a tool that would understand the workflow, something that is beyond the power of a single developer to understand all the flows, all the potential paths. And once you understand, or a system understands the potential paths, to generate on top of that the eval coverage, right? Understand the flows and proposing the proper evals along the paths. And for the developer would just be to understand what are those, and you tweak it here and there with some more relevant inputs. But this is what I think this is a very relevant question, and something that should be addressed, and a solution that should be provided, and things that we are actually now working on.
That if you do release it, I would love to have another workshop on this, because that would be quite revolutionary. Full test coverage of the entire code is like the holy grail of programming since what, the 1990s, I guess. But yeah, so that would be absolutely revolutionary. uh,
Okay, then it's a
Another
good. Mm.
Okay. Okay. So another question is that I'll just rephrase it, Ayush. Another question is that we know that there are some parameters to optimize for, creativity or maybe abstraction of the output, right? But what are some parameters that we can consider for making it more friendly in tone, or making it more robust in the sense of market research and market friendliness? So, what would be some parameters that you would modify, or you would change?
Mhm. Well, there are, yeah, some hyperparameters that we can tweak when working with LLMs, but those frameworks that are very popular nowadays, and we have integrations with them like LangChain, they let you choose what should be. There is a clear distinction about the system prompt and the user prompt. So, and each time you create an agent, you can provide a system prompt for it. And is that
Right.
easy? The system prompt can contain how it should respond to questions, how technical it should be, how helpful, or whatever. And no matter what the user prompt is, it's very hard to do sort of an, uh, let's say, an injection when it comes to the tone the agent should have and stuff like that, because the system prompt will always have priority over the user prompt.
Right. So basically, it you can control the persona of the LLM with the system prompt.
Yes, yes. Also, in the example I just showed you, every agent that was using tools, they had a system prompt behind. And I said, okay, you are a discount expert. You know how to calculate those using that. You are very, you pay attention to the details. So, you know, that was for the first one. The second one, the one that classified the request, it had an entire different system prompt. So those should be fine-tuned depending on the thing the agent is trying to achieve.
Right. So I think that's it. If there are no more questions.
I think there was another one. I can see it here in the chat. Somebody asked if there is an freemium option of the UiPath Action Center. And the question to that is yes, the answer, sorry, is yes, we do have the community plan. You can go ahead and create an account in UiPath Cloud Platform today, and you can use some resources and play with them and see if everything works fine before going commercial. I think you already have like out of the box, like Eusebio or Radi, please correct me if I'm wrong. You do have like 250 LLM calls free per day and access to
Yeah,
certain resources and stuff like that.
yeah, we do have entitlements enough so that you can experiment with all agentic features, and those entitlements are a common pool, and you can use that for whatever services, including these ones.
Okay. Another great question. Uh, what are where have so one real world example maybe where UiPath or UiPath platform helped in security operations. Uh, in-
Yeah.
yeah.
But by the way, one of the common things with agents and with every automation is that they save time.
Yeah.
And what we found out lately, and I think it would be interesting to just mention, that the true value with agents is way beyond time. And I found this for a lot of examples with customers where time was like a given, and we've seen this in trivial things like ticket classification, where it saved a lot of time because it removed the input and the analysis of human in assisted cases, because the summary of those use cases were provided to human just for review, and then it would complete the use case. For instance, in the logistics, the one that we've shown, this is a demo, but we've seen this with our customers, the time improvement for logistic and that use case in transportation was, I think, from like 1 hour per transaction to like 5 minutes or so, at approximation. But generally, now the time is commoditized as a value, and true value is that is the less human intervention on decision making. That is the currency here, the true value.
True. True. Another great question. I think you answered that in the code where you were showing the code as well. Can agents be paused?
Yes, yes, they do. We do have the suspend and resume mechanism. And we showed you in this example a human in the loop pause where a new human comes and resolves the task, but we also offer agent in the loop. So imagine like you don't even need a human that's responding to the task. You have an agent, you can have multiple agents talking with each other. One suspends, one resumes, then it gets the output and goes on. So yes, those agents are developed in such a way that a human can intervene at any point you decide it's necessary.
Okay. Okay. Uh, guys, any closing remarks that any of you would like to make?
Yeah, and as always, we one thing that we love to do is to see what you've built, and please do reach out to us, and we are willing to help. Please check out documentation and the community offerings, and the community forum. We again eager to see what you've built, and we are in that phase where we always listen very carefully to whatever challenges and bottlenecks or friction you would encounter, and ready to help with those and increase the speed and the reliability of the agents.
Yeah, and we also welcome contributions to our open source
Oh yeah,
repository. So
yeah. Double down on that. Double down
yeah,
on that.
Yeah. Okay. Uh, okay. So first of all, I would just like to appreciate the UiPath team. Right. So they showcase a particular use case that I have never seen. Right. And this basically shows the amount of efforts they put in. Would just like to thank you guys. Uh,
Yeah, and thanks for having us.
yeah, thank you.
and to the audience and the participants, I hope you had fun. I hope you learned a lot, and I hope you will be building amazing projects using the UiPath platform, and you will be showcasing it to us as well. So that's pretty much it for today. Thank you for your time. I have been Sampurna Tanjain. See you next time.
Thanks.
Thank you,
Bye.
guys.
Thank you.